Hi you guys, it's Amanda with Healthy House on the Block, and I'm here with another weekly video and tip on creating an indoor space that truly supports your health and your wellness. This week we're going to be talking about heavy metals and the toxicity that is going to affect your body and where they are found in your home. I think I was very surprised when I started looking into this for a client, and so I wanted to share it with you because it's very important when we start looking at our homes to be aware of the places that heavy metals can be. Generally, heavy metals build up within our system, and so they can become very toxic even at chronic low dose exposures. So we're going to go through how to find these things in your home and what you should be aware of, and then what products you can switch to or some different methods that you can use to make sure that your home doesn't have these toxic heavy metals in your space.
I think that many of us think that toxic heavy metals are maybe something only found in old homes or older products, but the truth is that toxic heavy metals are even in the materials we use today and purchase today. Heavy metals can oftentimes be forgotten about because we focus so much on the newer toxins like VOCs, flame retardants, and formaldehyde. But the truth is that toxins don't necessarily stop being used once we know that they are harmful to our health and wellness, and heavy metals are just naturally occurring in the earth and in soil and materials that we use all the time. So in fact, sometimes until a law changes, and even then it's still a bit iffy, heavy metals and other toxins will continue to be used. So before we jump into the good stuff of this week and all the details that I'm going to share, I think this one should come with a caveat. Please do not stress about these toxins. Yes, you may find them in your home, and yes, you may have been exposed within your space, but stress is only going to make the exposure worse. If you have found toxic heavy metals in your home or in your home items, you can only move forward. So move forward with a sense of appreciation that you did find the toxins in your space, or you're now learning about them. Move forward with the hope of removing as much of these heavy metal toxins as you can, and move forward with confidence that you are now empowered with the knowledge to make your home toxin free. So one of the big reasons that people start hunting for heavy metals in their homes is due to their own health. Many of us don't realize we've been exposed to heavy metals until they show up in our own health. So over time, many heavy metals will build up in your body, and this is over time. This is because our bodies typically do not detox heavy metals very quickly. And so even if you're being exposed at low levels over time, there can be high levels of heavy metal toxins in your body as your body just cannot get rid of them fast enough. Heavy metals also disrupt the metabolic function of the body. So first, they can accumulate and build up within the body, which disrupts the function of vital organs and glands, such as the heart, the brain, kidneys, bone, liver. And the second way they disrupt is that they actually replace the vital nutritional minerals we have in our bodies, which in turn hinders their biological function. Heavy metals can disrupt cellular function, including the growth and the repair process. And this can severely damage the cells in various parts of the body. But heavy metals are seen as a huge neurotoxin as well, and so their effect on the brain can be one of the most alarming side effects. Now, because children are so small, so much smaller than adults, the negative effects on their system can be even greater than what an adult may experience. So first and foremost, the amount of exposure to a child is going to negatively affect their body much more than an adult. This is simply because pound for pound, children are smaller than adults, and so the proportion of a toxin is much larger with children. Another very large reason that toxic heavy metals are particularly harmful to children is because of their poor hand-to-mouth habits. Many of these heavy metals we're going to talk about today are exposed only through ingestion. Lead, for example, won't be absorbed into the bloodstream via touch, and it is usually not inhaled except for the case of lead paint dust. However, if a child touches an item with lead on the surface, the lead can be on their hands, which they can then put in their mouth or touch food and expose themselves that way. And then finally, kids have very undeveloped systems. Their bodies are still developing and growing, and by disrupting cells that are growing with heavy metals, it can in turn affect them their entire lives, especially developmentally. While there are a number of toxic heavy metals around, these that I'm going to list out are the most common toxins that are found in the home. Lead is probably the biggest toxin we have in our homes today. Lead has been used in everything from paint to water pipes to hardware fixtures. Basically, the older your home, the more likely that there's potentially lead in the home somewhere. Lead paint was used before 1978, and so if your home is older than 1978 and you see flaking or chipping paint in your home, it is always best to be precautious and call in a professional to remove it. Lead could potentially be in water pipes in your home, especially if you live in an older house. The most common would be a drain pipe in your home, and thankfully not a supply line or supply pipe that brings water to a fixture such as a faucet. Lead pipes are often a dull gray color, but if it's scratched with something hard like a key, it will leave a very shiny indent. And so this is a great way to identify a lead pipe in your home. There are basically two options with lead drain pipes. You can have them removed by a professional who practices lead-safe abatement techniques. A lot of times they have to be certified, or you can just leave it alone. I think most homeowners choose to leave it alone as it carries water away from a drain and away from your home, and it is never touched by the water that comes out of your fixtures. Another consideration is that some solder used on copper piping or plumbing fixtures can in fact have lead in it. If you're having work done by a plumber, it does not hurt to have your own lead-free solder on hand, or you can ask your plumber about it. They may even use lead-free. And then lastly, lead can be found in some hardware. Brass hardware is notorious for having trace amounts of lead in the product, and this could be from handles on faucets, it could be from doorknobs, it could be from cabinet pulls, and other hardware around your home. Mercury is a colorless, odorless vapor that is extremely toxic. This is one of the heavy metal toxins that is not necessarily just ingested. So the most common place you'll find mercury in your home is in light bulbs that are still in stores and online. Fluorescent lights and compact fluorescent lights contain mercury in them. And so it is very important to be aware that if these light bulbs break, there can be unsafe exposure right in your home. Other home items that might contain mercury are thermostats, thermometers, and barometers. And so while this mercury is enclosed, it is important to be aware that if they break, it can be an unsafe exposure within your home. One more place we see mercury is in older latex paint. So this would be like pre-1990. It has the potential for containing mercury within the paint, which could be a potential hazard if your home hasn't been painted since prior to 1990. Arsenic is another toxin. It is most closely correlated with water exposure. So arsenic is naturally occurring in some types of soils, especially soil containing mineral ore. Most arsenic that we're exposed to will be in our drinking water, which actually can be filtered out with the appropriate filter. Arsenic used to be found in herbicides used to kill weeds. So if there's an older herbicide being used, it is potentially there. However, now that has been replaced with other chemicals and other toxins. It has also been found in pressure-treated wood, This is to help protect the wood from rot and from insects. So specifically, it is found in chromated copper arsenate. This wood is used in playgrounds, decks, fences, home foundations, and other structures. It's actually extremely toxic to breathe in smoke from these burning woods. Arsenic is naturally occurring in some other metals as well, such as cobalt, gold, nickel, and lead. And so it's good to be aware of when purchasing items made with these metals. Arsenic is a carcinogen and has been linked to an increased risk of bladder cancer, skin cancer, lung cancer, kidney cancer, and liver cancer. So unfortunately, aluminum almost gets a free pass in the US. So much of what we use in our kitchens contain aluminum, but the truth is that aluminum has been linked to a number of neurological diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Pots and pans can contain a percentage of aluminum in them, even if they appear to be stainless steel. Many families also still use aluminum foil, which again contains toxins. A workaround for my family has been placing unbleached parchment paper between our food and the foil to prevent any sort of leaching. And another huge source of aluminum is in our skincare products, so particularly deodorant. This is one of the worst in my opinion because oftentimes deodorant is on your skin for almost 24 hours before bathing it or washing it off, meaning the exposure time is very long. And then finally, cadmium. This is common in dyes and pigments. However, it has also been detected in batteries, metal coatings, and plastics. I think the most common source of cadmium is actually in ceramics, especially ceramics that are used in the kitchen. So a dye, glaze, or pigmented ceramic product can contain cadmium, and unfortunately, it's then touching our food. There can also be cadmium in groundwater that travels to your home, which could be another way that it is ingested. And the big concern with cadmium is that even with low levels of chronic exposure, it can in fact damage the kidneys and even cause bone disorders like osteoporosis. But the good news is there are many easy ways to reduce heavy metal toxins within our homes, and they're not crazy or difficult ways either. So opt for stainless steel in the kitchen because heavy metal toxins are so easily ingested when they come in contact with our food. It is extremely important to be aware of what we are cooking and storing our food inside of. 100% stainless steel is a great option for the kitchen. Be sure that if there is aluminum in the pan, that it is only in the core of the pan. Aluminum transfers heat very well, and so quite often the core may be aluminum. However, the exterior that you're cooking with would be stainless steel, and this is safe. Another option is lead-free 100% ceramic cookware like Extrema pans, or you could opt for a cast iron pan. Another way you can reduce lead exposure at home is by checking the RoHS certification list. Many types of products are verified on the list, including doorknobs and drawer and cabinet pulls. RoHS originated in the European Union and restricts the use of many kinds of toxins, a few being cadmium and lead. The certification requires rigorous testing of products that include microscope and X-ray technology. Most of the toxins that I mention in this post are toxins that are ingested, and therefore excellent hand washing habits will reduce these toxins in your home. A perfect example would be touching a doorknob that could potentially have lead in it. And while this cannot be absorbed through your skin, if you were then to eat a handful of almonds, you'd be transferring the toxins to the food that you're eating. And this is why it's extremely important for kids to keep clean hands. Kids quite often expose themselves to toxins simply because they have their hands in their mouth more often. Faucets, believe it or not, can contain lead in the finish of the faucet or in the internal parts. So I actually love Kraus faucets, and I linked them in the blog this week. They are lead-free certified and have a guaranteed lead-free waterway. So this means that your water doesn't touch lead as it travels through the faucet. The best and safest option is going to be a stainless steel faucet, as it doesn't contain a finish on the outside that could potentially contain lead or another heavy metal. I realize that this may be an unpopular opinion, as it's just not as stylish as an enameled faucet, but it will reduce the potential exposure to lead. While we do still use some aluminum as a family, we also add a layer of parchment paper to it in order to reduce exposure and contact with our food. There are many alternatives to use rather than tinfoil in the kitchen. You could use silicone, bees wrap, and glass or stainless steel containers. But again, if you're like my family and you want to use aluminum to save cleaning a pan or two, just add a layer of unbleached parchment paper to it. And finally, drink filtered water. So many toxins are in our water that we drink. Even if you get your water filtered through your city or municipality, there are in fact toxins that make their way to our home anyways. And even if they don't, your plumbing can also leach toxins into your home. So to start off, it's important to assess your water. I highly recommend a tap score kit to get you started with a full test and understanding of your water. From there, it's easy to decide if you should get a multi-stage filter or a reverse osmosis filter or something else. So again, I implore you not to stress about these toxins. Just move forward with better choices and habits to reduce the exposure to heavy metals in your home.
Thank you so much for being here. I hope you will subscribe to my channel, because I will be here again next week with a healthy house tip on creating an indoor space that truly supports your health and your wellness.